So after the release of Vanilla Ice's first proper album, To The Extreme, the backlash was almost immediate. The popularity of Ice Ice Baby and what respect he got from it would be completely overshadowed by all the criticism regarding his image. From the false story about his life, to the under pressure sampling debacle, to the fact that he was a white man who got the first #1 Billboard hit in a predominantly black genre, Ice's name was being dragged through the mud, and he would lash out most notably at the AMAs.
Word to your mother and the people who try to hold me down and talk bad about me, kiss my white butt. Word to your mother.
But obviously this would not stop the overwhelming hatred for him that the public had established. Not helped by the critical failure that was his movie Cool as Ice or the live album Extremely Live, that was released to try and squeeze what little there was of Ice's fame. Yeah, you can imagine that Ice got really burnt out from the constant overexposure of the music industry, and he'd stopped taking business advice from SBK as a result. And though he would continue to tour in the years following 1990, even previewing songs that we'll talk about later, he would discover another passion of his, that being jet skiing and motocross. The dude was even on the 1991 Circus of the Stars event where he rode his motorcycle through 2 walls that were set on fucking fire, goddamn. But Ice knew that he would eventually have to make a second album, and it definitely was not going to be easy to achieve the same success after having your name tarnished in the media from almost every angle possible. Not to mention the fact that by this time, hip-hop was moving in a more serious direction, with pop rap pretty much being seen as a joke at this point. So of course, he would have to change with the times, and change he did. For the next phase of his career, Ice changed his image to that of a grungy stoner type guy with dreadlocks. Most are quick to dismiss this as a feeble attempt to get back in the spotlight, but it actually did reflect who Ice was at the time, seeing as how he had an interest in the Rastafari movement, which inspired him not only to become vegetarian, but also start smoking something that I need to touch more often. And honestly, at least on the image side, I can at least see this as an improvement from To The Extreme from the very word go, which normally I don't really give that much of a shit about image, but with this change in particular, I feel it was a lot more natural to who he was. Because when Ice was the guy with the goofy looking fade and the weird fucking suits, you can kind of tell that the label had their hands all over that shit. With this look, it was a lot more authentic, at least at the time. And with this new image, Ice would start working on the Sophomore album, releasing the song Roll It Up as the initial single in February, and a month later on March 22nd, 1994, Mind Blowin' was released. But before we get into the album proper, I'm just gonna say this right out of the gate, I fucking love this record. Ever since I first listened to it, I was kinda, no pun intended, blown away by how much improvement Ice had made over To The Extreme. But I guess you're here to hear me explain why, so that's what I'm gonna do. Roll up the Hoonie Mac and smoke that shit as we talk about Vanilla Ice's second album, Mind Blowin'. Yep, this sure is a live intro. I don't know, it's not a bad intro per se, but it's not really that noteworthy either. It mainly consists of a weird synth noise, a crowd cheering, and near the end of the track you hear a talk box. But it's whatever really, it does its job and it doesn't really go on for too long. It's mainly just here to lead into the next track, which is...
Check it out, check it out, check it out, check it out,
Well, this is a really good fucking song, and one with a lot of shit to talk about as well. So, first thing, the production quality has drastically improved from To The Extreme, by a country fucking mile. Yeah, you might remember that I actually gave some praises towards a couple of the beats in my last video on Ice, but if I can be completely honest, some of the beats are kinda stilted and mechanical in retrospect, like Dancin' or The Abomination that was Life Is a Fantasy. The beats on this album, however, completely wash everything that was on To The Extreme, because this shit is funky as fuck, especially because of the merciful sampling throughout this record. Yeah, in case you don't know, sampling is a thing that's always interested me, especially during the late 80s and early 90s of hip-hop, where a bunch of songs were just brought together to make this very unique collage of sound. In fact, I've recently been listening to albums from Cypress Hill and House of Pain, 2 acts that I would say also fit under this specific style of boom bap, which can be credited to DJ Muggs, who I think is an underrated as fuck producer. Like, listen to any of those Cypress Hill records and you'll hear what I mean. The dude just knows how to use samples really effectively. But while this song doesn't necessarily sound like them, at least from a sonic standpoint, a bunch of songs later pretty much confirm that this is an album inspired by The Hill to an extent, so there are a bunch of samples used in this song in particular. The most notable one being the sample of David Bowie's Fame. And Are you sure you want to step on Bowie's toes after last time? But I think that might have been intentional, because this song details Ice's experiences with fame. I guess this is basically his way of saying, yeah, I made my most popular song using a Bowie sample, and you can bet your sweet ass I'm gonna do it again. There's also a sample of the riff from Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child, but while in the original Hendrix song the riff is loud and electric because the dude was a fucking guitar god, the main riff in this song is replayed with a specific funk aspect to it. It's a lot softer, and it works really well, especially with the unique guitar solo near the end of the track, courtesy of someone named Andy Timmons. There's also commonly used samples such as the drum line from Synthetic Substitution and the louder sample from Long Red by Mountain, and it all comes together to make this really tight production that works really well with Ice's refined flow. And I do gotta bring attention to that flow because he's a lot more loose in how he delivers his lines this time around.
Now the Ice is kicking it like a champ, but don't try to play me like some wet food stamp. They say that was a fluke cause I used a fat loop, but here's the scoop, truth, the Ice is back to make it hoop.
I also really like during the second verse where the beat switches up from what it was before with this really funky synth sample being played.
Fame, I'm still the same person, I never ever switch, and even if I'm rich, but now it's like an itch, cause I love the music, they say I do it for the money, and it's funny.
I'll fully admit, I don't really know where it comes from, but if anyone's aware of what sample is being used, please let me know. Regardless of what it is though, I still think it works perfectly, still fitting the funkiness of the rest of the track, and makes for a really good switch up. Like I said before, this is a song about Ice's experience with fame and all the things that come with it, and he does a pretty good job at talking about what the media thinks of him, from things like people saying that he only does music for money, to the criticism he got for the Under Pressure sample, to dissing those who only hung around Ice for his wealth, as well as a very interesting third verse where he talks about what it's like being at the center of such negative press.
Now in the public eye, you know I'm having to admit it, you become a target for a whole lot of critics, reporters sticking to you like white on rice. Now everywhere I go they wanna interview the Ice, before every show it's like I'm steadily surrounded by all of my fans and the media's hounded.
And you know, you do gotta feel bad for him to a certain extent, cause like, regardless of what you think of him, I'd imagine it get pretty fucking annoying being constantly interrogated in interviews. Though there is this line.
This is not a diss, cause see I love all my fans, but the media doesn't really understand. They take what you say, twist it around into lies, then the next thing you know a bunch of rumors start to fly. Then they try to make you out to be a straight liar, and next you'll be the front page on the National Enquirer.
Which I will be getting back to in a bit since there is something I do want to say about it later on. But overall I do really like this track. Not only does it blast off the gates perfectly, not only does it showcase Ice's new refined style, but it's an interesting look at his perspective on both the fame and infamy he had received. Probably not as detailed as it probably should have been, but in my opinion, Ice still killed with this track. You know, except when the Orions worth with themselves.
Cause this game is made up of a bunch of crazy rules, and fools get took if they're not playing it by the rules.
Like, seriously, dude? Was the word fools just off the fucking table or something?
Get him now, before the police come.
This is just a random skit that's here for some fucking reason. I mean, there's gun sounds, there's a police radio, and then there's a guy telling someone to dance before the police come or some shit like that. I mean, there's a specific line about shooting someone down from a rooftop in the next song, so I guess it's probably a reference to that. I don't know. The first time I heard it on the record, I was just confused as to why it was there, though it does segue into the next track, which is...
Here it is, a dope hit, Iceman's coming with a dope hit, cause a few suckers need their throat slit, jealous cause I went multi-platinum, now I'm gonna blast them in the head to the dead with my magnum.
Okay, before we even get to the song, I just want to say this. The way the documentary I've been using to get some of this information for this video describes this album makes it seem like this was Vanilla Ice's attempt at making a gangster rap album.
It was a severe departure from his teeny bopper days. Ice was decked out in grunge clothes and dreadlocks. His music was dark and sinister, and riddled with references to violence and drugs.
But like, no, not really. I mean, sure, there are some references to guns, but functionally, this is not a gangster rap album. And I feel that's a distinction that should be made considering the fact that, well, bring it back to that line that I brought attention to back in Fame, Ice was also known back then for having a fake background of being this street kid.
What reporters did know, they got from a biography distributed by Ice's record company. It claimed he was a gangbanger who grew up in the ghettos of Miami, that he attended a predominantly black high school, and that he was a national motocross champion. None of it was true.
To be fair, there have been conflicting reports of what actually happened, with some saying that his label created his bio without his knowledge. However, there are instances of him doubling down on said story.
I did get stabbed 5 times, I almost died. It's something I'm not proud about. I am from the streets, and if you can't see that I'm from the streets, then you're blind. Because the majority of white people, you know, cannot dance, and they don't have much rhythm, you know?
But while I think it was hella foolish to do, I personally think that the label sort of made him stick to it, at least to a certain degree. And I say this because listening to the Extreme, you would think that someone who tried to be this tough street motherfucker would, you know, mention it more often. Like, other than that one verse that I brought attention to in Ice Ice Baby about a drive-by that isn't even done by Ice in the track itself, there's nothing really that makes Ice seem like this gangbanger. Well, I mean, other than this cringe line from that Play the Funky Music remix that wasn't even on the album proper.
A white rapper with some street knowledge.
Fucking ugh. Like, is he completely innocent of making up his backstory? Absolutely fucking not. I think it was a really dumb decision to double down on it. However, I'm not discounting the possibility that the label had some hand in it. But other than that, I also brought this up because literally the same fucking month that this album came out, another former pop rapper ended up going through a harder reinvention, where he actually did try to be gangsta. Yep, this was around the time that MC Hammer released The Funky Headhunter, the album infamous for a drastic change in his image. Oh, and his penis. But these two records are completely different in terms of image direction. Hammer tried to present himself as some sort of thug, claiming to be a true OG, while Ice is more of just a stoner guy who happens to have guns. Well, I mean, there is this line, I guess.
Taking out the suckers with an album that is funkier and hyper. The type of street stuff I like listening to. Funky breaks and bass to make your speakers shake.
However, keep in mind that he said this stuff that he likes listening to, not that he himself is from the streets. And considering that this song is very much inspired by Cypress Hill, who are very much a gangster rap group, I think this is just an appreciation of Cypress Hill's style. And I mean, sure, Hammer actually was pretty threatening if you mess with him, I mean, just ask MC Search. But I guess similarly to Ice, their pop image was just too synonymous with them to the point where any deviation was just seen as a desperate attempt to stay relevant. But enough of that, let's talk about the actual song, and the fact that it utilizes the samples really fucking well. The first sample is the bass line, which is sampled from the song Son of Sly by the band Slave. I'm saying a lot of S words today. Shit. And I absolutely love how they took this really fast-paced little funk tune and slowed it down to the point where it sounds really fucking nasty, but like, in the best possible way. It has a very sinister vibe to it. Hell, there's even a really cool sample of Black Sabbath's Wicked World at the beginning of the song. But what's really fucking interesting is how they took the snippet from the feedback heard at the end of the song, and use it to add this very sly and sinister sound.
Oh yeah.
It's very subtle, but it adds a lot. Granted, it's only really at the beginning of the song where it appears, but it's such a cool sound and it makes me wish it lasted throughout the track. You know, like Cypress Hill also did it. But that's all production shit. What about the content of the song itself? It's essentially a brag rap with Ice claiming his position in the rap game, dismissing all the critics and even people who dissed him. Which brings us to...
Pop goes the whining and the weasel. I see the empty pocket needs a refill. I got a squad with a list of complainers. I should have started rape. Rappers against phony entertainers.
So in case you don't know, Third Base was a hip-hop trio who consisted of rappers MC Search and Pete Nice alongside DJ Richie Rich, who had a decently successful song with Pop Goes the Weasel. The song is very much a middle finger to Ice, calling him out for making hip-hop pop and making jabs at his expense.
You stole somebody's record, then you looped it. You boosted the record, then you looped it. Hey yo, I came from Cali and they hooped it. But now you're getting sued, kinda stupid.
They even got Henry Rollins to dress up as him, and by the end of the video, he's getting his ass beat, so yeah, I don't really think they liked Ice very much. And as you could have guessed, Ice fired shots back, basically saying that Pop Goes the Weasel flopped because it dn't do nearly as well as Ice Ice Baby.
Got the number 3 in my crosses, sitting on the rooftops. and the fools drop. Pop goes a weasel was a big for flop flop. The president like your record cause it wasn't hip hop pop.
And with that last line, my interpretation has always been that he's just like straight up dismissing it as just straight up not hip hop. I will admit, it's not the strongest diss ever, but rest assured, there is actually another diss to them that we'll get to later. Spoilers, it hits a lot harder. And the rest of the song is pretty cool too. Ice floors over the beat nicely in the same voice that he used in Fame, and the beat is very hypnotic. I'd say this is a pretty good one. Though, fun fact about the song before we move on to the next one. So, you know how I said in the beginning that Ice would preview songs live from this record before its actual release date? Well, I found the performance of The Wrath in 1991 that Ice had posted to his channel, and this version of the song is completely different. Not only was it more in line with his pop-friendly image at the time, but the song was also changed dramatically, as the original version was a lot more bouncy and was based around a sample of Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie.
Iceman, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down.
Which actually makes the song kinda cool in a sense. Ice managed to take this fun little song, switch it into this dark, funky little bop, and it works pretty well in my opinion.
I need some herbs and spices so I can feel nicest. The breeze pulling like a summer tree.
Hey, so you know how I said about this record and how it was inspired by Cypress Hill? Well, this song pretty much confirms that. The beat primarily has the sample of Insane the Brain, so yeah, they were definitely an influence, no question. Not only in terms of image or production, but also in terms of subject matter, because this song is about smoking them trees. And just like Cypress Hill, the production in this song, much like the rest of the album, is on fucking point. The bass line mixed with the Cypress Hill sample gives it this very weird but groovy sound to it, and Ice provides a really good performance even though he admittedly isn't really saying anything too clever about it. It's mainly just a vibe of a song with Ice reciting fun lines over this funky beat, and he does so exceptionally on this track, though there are moments where he does say something that admittedly does get kind of a chuckle out of me.
And no, I don't front like Zero, who wears a crown hat, but always says no, but I say yes.
I don't know, it's kind of amusing seeing, Zero being this guy who's always fronting when it comes to smoking, but always has a hat that indicates that he smokes, and Ice just saying, hey, you're not hiding anything, dude, smoke this fucking thing. I don't know, that's kind of funny. And just like Fame, this song brings it home with another guitar solo from Andy Timmons, who once again kills it. It's also worth noting that this was actually the first single released from Blowin, meaning that to those who were still paying attention to Ice at this time, this was their introduction to the new image, and honestly, if I was them, I'd kinda be all on board. Obviously, they weren't, but, it's what it is.
Here comes the lyrical beat down. Move out the way, punk, and take a seat, clown.
Hey, you know how I said the fucking thing?
Spoilers, it hits a lot harder.
As implied earlier, this is a diss track to a bunch of artists who have taken shots or full-on disses towards Ice in the past, which doesn't include Shaquille O'Neal for some reason.
You can get the middle finger, vanilla ice.
The first verse disses Third Base, who, I already explained what they did, but the second and third verses diss Marky Mark and MC Hammer respectively. I actually had to dig a bit deeper to find out what prompted Ice to diss them, and what do you know, both have thrown shots at Ice in the past, to varying degrees. Marky Mark actually dissed the dude twice on his Music for the People album. The first diss was actually quite tame, being said on the album's title track.
Don't even hand me a damn credit. My name ain't Ice and I'm not from Miami. You talk about playing as friends, so what you saying?
But the real disses came with the song So What You Sayin', which actually has an entire verse where he pretty much calls out Ice directly.
It's just me, the F, the A, the R, the E, and I'm smooth. Although I never claim to be vanilla. Nope, I'm Irish American, and never did I pretend to be an African. You're needing a history lesson, cause you forgot where you came from. You're just dumb.
Damn, bro. And then there was MC Hammer, who definitely had the least to say in regards to Ice, at least from what I could find. In fact, the only real thing I could say as a diss to Ice is this line from Too Legit to Quit.
You remind me of a real short story. One hit record and you start to bore me.
Which doesn't even call him out by name, even though we could probably already guess who he was talking about. I mean, it is very non-specific, but in a way where you can kind of tell what he's talking about, since Ice is universally considered a one-hit wonder with well, a real short story. Regardless, Ice definitely caught on to Hammer's diss, so him along with the two other acts are dissed in this song. And if I could be completely fucking honest, this song kinda bumps like absolute fuck.
Cause you fell into my booby traps. No more good vibrations, I'm tired of your booty raps. So I eat you like Scooby snacks, or maybe roll you like a zigzag and smoke you like a hootie mac.
Just like the rest of the album, this song has a really great beat with these really punchy drums, and Ice sounds energized as fuck when reciting these lines. Oh, and this one in particular?
I put a crunch on Marky, take the funky out of his bunch. I hit the home run, you got the third base, I'm in first place. Take a seat, clown, for the beat down.
I fucking love this line. I mean, sure, it's definitely saying the same thing as The Wrath, that being that he sold more records than they did, but does so in a much more creative way. I like how he takes third base's name and turns it into a baseball metaphor because, you know, base and base are both homophones, but he's essentially saying that, yeah, you are in third base, motherfucker. Meanwhile, I'm the one who's actually made it to home plate. I'm the one who actually won. Now, that probably wasn't true in the public eye, but you gotta admit, that line's kind of fire. Now, do I think that this is a perfect diss track by any means? Not really. The first dissing Hammer is probably the weakest out of the three, and I'll admit, it's because of this line.
Oh, what up, hitty though? Cause you had to spend $3 million on your video. It was a good video, and I can admit that all that money's wasted cause your song's whack.
I don't know, it feels like a really weak diss to say someone's song sucks after complimenting them on how good the video was.
Wait, you just dissed me? I'm perplexed. Insult me in a line, compliment me on the next, damn.
So I'm not acting like this is like Hit 'em Up 2 or some shit, but if I could be completely honest, it is a pretty good diss overall.
Oh yeah.
As the title implies, this is just a little interlude of Ice just
Smooth, silky, sexy, slow jam. Just to get me in the mood.
trying to get you in the mood apparently. Really though, it does the job fine enough. Definitely helped by the sample of Roger Troutman's Do It Roger playing in the background, more or less unchanged from the original, and of course, it segues into the next track.
I need a woman that's sexy, straight up and erotic. I gotta have her, yes, a beautiful sex goddess.
And we're going on strong with this one. Yeah, Now and Forever is a pretty good track. One of the main things I like about it is, like most of the songs on the record, the magnificent sampling. I mean, just listen to that bass line. For those who don't know, this bass line comes from an old Parliament song called The Motor Booty Affair, and it's funky as hell in that song, but I absolutely adore what Zero and Ice did with it. The way it has that filter over it makes it sound kinda, I don't know the exact word, but vintage? It makes it sound really old school is what I'm trying to say, but it makes it sound really great as well. Ice himself does pretty good on the song as well. You know, when he isn't rhyming words with themselves.
I need a woman that drives me crazy when I look at her, and makes an Iceman melt when I look at her.
Please stop, I have a wife. Yeah, this is a song about Ice having sex, and look, I know that can be quite the turnoff considering how the last songs that Ice had relating to sex were
Say ooh, I don't know what it means, but I like it a lot.
fucking awful, but I gotta say, he does a lot better this time around, especially during the second verse. There's a whole lot of sexual imagery and double entendres that, yeah, aren't the most creative things in the world, but they are pretty entertaining.
Yeah, she's a one to make vanilla's blood boil. Open that hood and let me check that oil. I got the right dipstick for the job, honey. Watch me swing while you're dancing in your G-string. And let me pull up to your bumper. And if your battery is dead, I'll pull my cable out and jump ya. Pump you with the juice to get the engine running.
I don't know, it's kinda goofy, but Ice pulls it off really well, I believe. Though I won't say that all the lines are perfect.
I need a woman, not a hooker, to take rides on the love boat. Yes, my 53-footer.
Okay, I know that rappers will often brag about being well endowed, but 53 goddamn feet?
It's the Wonder Boner.
To put that into perspective, 53 feet is as long as this truck trailer, so I'm just saying, like, yeah, Ice is definitely over-exaggerating, but it's whatever, really. This track overall is a pretty fucking good one. A funky as hell beat alongside Ice spinning funky sex rhymes. What more can you ask for? Anything else is not an acceptable answer.
I got a fix full of junkies of hip-hop. Suckers that get in the way have to get dropped.
And here we have the first dance track on this record. Yeah, while a good bit of this album is inspired by Cypress Hill, there are still a good bit of songs that were in the similar vein to some of the songs that were on To The Extreme. But this one in particular being essentially an updated version of the song It's a Party. If you saw my last video on Ice, you would know that it was a song that had the potential to be pretty good, as Ice's delivery and flow are really on point, especially for that album given how mediocre it was, even if the lines were
See, we won't come frontin'. hunting, selling drugs and all that shit.
A little too dare in retrospect, but the main thing that prevented me from calling it a really good song was the chorus, which was very stilted and annoying with how it was chopped up in the song. But with Iceman Party, pretty much all the flaws that It's a Party had are fixed here, including facing the chorus.
Ain't no party like an Iceman party. Ain't no. Hey, ain't no party like an Iceman party. Ain't no. Come on.
Instead of shouting, "It's a party, let's do this" in an unenthusiastic voice, Ice in the backup vocals shout in a very fun and energetic way. And in regards to the verses, Ice is just as energetic, really going all out over a beat that samples another Roger Troutman song called I Heard Through the Grapevine. And during his verses, he reminds us of how much his last record sold.
One track made a killing, and my first LP went way over 11 million.
Dismisses anyone who said he fell off.
Everybody thought that the ice was gonna fade out, but you was wrong, cause I never get played out, and that's straight up reality.
And even takes another jab at third base.
Forget pop goes the weasel, cause I ran over them punks like a Mack truck diesel.
But yeah, while this song is very much just It's a Party but better, it does a lot to make it more enjoyable, and that's why I like it.
Making the suckers drop when you're stepping into my zone. Coming straight up like my man Al Capone.
Oh My Gosh feels like a song that's just made to spit fun raps over a janky sounding beat, and honestly, it's pretty good too. The weird beat was off-putting when I first heard it, but on repeated listens, I can admire how cartoony it sounds under Ice's energized delivery. I also gotta bring attention to the samples being used in the track. Now, one thing that one might assume about Ice is that I didn't actually care about hip-hop or know anything about the rap game, but not only have I shown plenty of reasons as to why I do believe he has respect for it, but the samples he uses in the song actually show it as well. First off, there's a sample of EPMD at the beginning of the track.
I have a strong point of view on the way things run. Just shut up and listen and learn, my son. Shut up and listen and learn, my son.
Not anything too fancy, but it works well. But then there's the chorus.
Oh my gosh, 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 oh my gosh.
For those of you who don't know, this is a loop sample of the song The International Zone Coaster by the rap group Leaders of the New School.
Oh my gosh, it's a sunny day and the sky is bright.
This will actually be where Busta Rhymes got his start, but even at the time of Ice's record, Busta had yet to become a household name with his solo career, so it was interesting to see Ice sample him at this time. And then there's this part.
In case you forgot, I'm here to remind you I'm
Chiller than the ice on vanilla.
This is a sample of Redman's Watch Yo Nuggets from his debut album, What the Album.
More like But the Album.
Shut the fuck up.
Chiller than the ice on vanilla. I kill more kills than it kills from tequila.
And that record came out in '92, meaning that it was pretty recent, so it's nice seeing Ice use samples of newer songs, showing that he's well informed about the new records of the time. So yeah, I see the song as a loving tribute, and I do think it's a pretty cool song overall, but there is one line that kinda tells me something.
word to the mother, I'm here to tear it up, and if you can't get with it, I don't give a
Okay, is there any reason at all why Ice isn't allowed to swear on this record, especially on an album with songs about smoking weed and fucking bitches? Like, the only reason I can assume that Ice did this was that him or his label was trying to be as clean as possible to try and get a radio hit, but like, one, you can just make a fucking clean version, and two, it does look weird on Ice because through some of the lyrics on this record, you can kinda tell that he wants the same success he got with his first album. And while I do commend him for his confidence at the very least, but at the same time, it does feel weird given that this album would essentially go triple cardboard. Not saying that relates to its quality, but it is rather unfortunate how things didn't go as planned. I just think that Ice should have focused on perfecting his craft rather than trying to be at the top again, but I guess that can be chalked up to just not wanting to be seen as a joke anymore, so I can understand it to a certain extent. Whatever, regardless of what the removal of the fuck word entails, I think this is a pretty good track.
Bring it up, yo, and let me hear that system bump. Cause with this here, I gotta get over the hump. And you know what that means? That means kicking off funky rhymes, G.
Yeah, more clunky than funky, my ass. This song is very much in the same vein as some of the previous tracks. Brag raps with Ice providing a good flow over a funky ass beat, with this one mainly sampling the Isley Brothers and their song Take Me to the Next Phase. But there are some other cool samples in the beat, like this vocal line from a live Jackson 5 performance.
Can you feel it?
Power.
As well as a very subtle sample of the horns on James Brown's Cold Sweat.
Minutes of power.
There's also a vocal line from Spirit of the Boogie by Kool and the Gang as a way to end the chorus. but I like how it all comes together to make a song that bumps like absolute fuck. And there are a couple of notable lines like,
when I'm rolling around in my 5.0 drop top, turning up the sound cause I wanna bump the hip hop. People get mad cause they hear the big bass hit. I turn it up more just to let you know I won't quit.
I don't know, I just find it amusing that Ice goes out of his way to blast his music so that people who don't like it will get mad. I also like this line as well.
Shooting on enemies, you're not even a friend of me. I ain't Spike Lee, so I do the wrong thing, G.
Yeah, this track is pretty alright. Definitely not as good as the other tracks, but it's good enough.
I remember way back when, looking for the right girl to be my friend.
This one, however, yeah, this is my least favorite song on the record, no question. It has good elements, like a very smooth beat that samples Betty Rice, You're Just What I Need. Like, it sounds very calm, and Ice raps over it fine enough, telling about how he wants to find someone that's right for him. That's also down for sex, because, you know, why the fuck not?
The type of girl that never says no, cause she's down to the fullest, and she's cool like the wind blows.
But the thing I really don't like about this song is the chorus.
I go down, I go down, I go down, baby, I go down.
I'm not exactly fond of this one, mostly due to the delivery. It's so unintentionally goofy that it takes me out of the song a little. Like, it just sounds kinda douchey, if that makes any sense, and lines like this don't help matters.
So if you're out there, this one's for you. You be down with me, and maybe I'll be true.
Yeah, if you get with me, then maybe I won't cheat on you. I don't know, this song isn't the worst thing ever, but the chorus really brings it down a peg. It doesn't make it unlistenable, at least as a whole, but it's definitely the weakest in my opinion.
Well, MC Hammer has spent 21 weeks at the top of Billboard's album chart, but those days are over.
Okay, so I don't know where this audio came from, but this track is essentially a news station reporting on how Ice Ice Baby dethroned MC Hammer at the top of the charts, so yeah, this is another shot at Hammer. Again, I'm not sure if this is audio from a real news station or if it was recorded specifically for this album, but overall I don't think this track was really necessary, or at the very least it could have been moved towards Hit 'Em Hard on the track list, because it does feel kinda weird hearing a track like this many tracks after the initial disc. Am I analyzing this too much? Probably. Do I care? Well, what the fuck do you think?
I draw my rhymes like a bow, shoot 'em out like an arrow, souping on suckers like an eagle, not a sparrow.
Right off the bat, one thing I do like about Funky Rhymes is how the beat switches during the hook and verses. The verses are rapped over a sample of Son of Reach For It by George Duke.
Give it up smooth, cause the ice has got it sewed up. The bum rush is on and vanilla's gonna blow up.
And the hook uses a slowed down sample of Do Wah Diddy by Zap.
Funky rhyme. Funky rhyme. Funky rhyme. Yeah.
And the way it's slowed down makes it sound very trippy, very fitting for a stoner album. And Ice pretty much does his thing over it, using a slower flow compared to the other tracks, but he still pulls it off really well. Hell, there's even another diss in this song, that being to Luke from the 2 Live Crew, where Ice accuses him of not paying his group.
Thought I was down with Luke, nope, but here's a scoop. You make all the loot, but you can't even pay your group. Well, man, that's straight whacked. In fact, I hate that. Watch yourself, cause you might get paid back.
Which, I mean, I don't even know if that's true, but if it is, then pay your goddamn crew, Luke from 1994. You fucking hear me? But other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about the song in particular. It's a pretty good song with fantastic beat switches and, well, funky rhymes. So, does that sample sound familiar to you? Yep, this song uses a sample from Hall & Oates of all people, specifically their song Sarah Smile, and in all honesty, it works really well in the song. The way the keys change from the original makes it sound just as chilled out, but with a specific warmness to it. I can easily imagine just cruising at night with a beat like this playing. Just like Now and Forever, this is another song about sex, but this time around it's framed as a short little story about Ice doing the nasty. Truth be told, I gotta give props to Ice for improving his delivery on this type of song, because I remember Life is a Fantasy, and I have the scars to prove it. On that song, Ice's nasal delivery and cringe-inducing lyrics combined to make one of the worst tracks on that record, and that's saying something. For this song, his smooth delivery really makes the song work, even if there are moments where, well...
10 minutes passed, I got my eyes on her, she
she's shaped like an hourglass.
Dude, this song is about fucking. You should be allowed to say ass. Who do you think you are? Fred Durr? Okay, never mind. But yeah, this song is pretty fucking good. From Ice's delivery, to the smooth instrumental, to the chorus that interpolates mind-blowing decisions by Heatwave, it's just an absolute vibe throughout.
Oh, son of a gun. You thought I was gonna say son of a bitch, didn't you?
This is literally just audio from an old as hell Looney Tunes short called Porky Pig Breakdowns of 1939. Do I know why the fuck it's on the record? Absolutely not. Is it a little amusing hearing it regardless? Yeah, a little. Wait a minute, you can say bitch, but you can't say ass?
All you blue butt suckers play the back and back black. If you run up, I'll flip you like a fat jack and roll you up like a knapsack. Crack that skull with a bat. You shouldn't on your rat's whack.
And we end this record off with a pretty good track. Nothing amazing, but it's good for what it is. On my initial listen, I didn't care that much for the weird bleepy bloopy sounding instrumental, but like the Beyond Oh My Gosh, it's grown on me. The beat actually uses two samples, one of which is from We Call It The Box, which is used for the bass line, and the other one is more notable, that being More Bounce to the Ounce by Zap. And it's replayed in a way that sounds a lot more cartoony, which might explain why there was a Looney Tunes clip before it. Hell, there's even this line.
You're the lady who makes me loony.
But honestly, Ice kinda goes off on this track. The first verse in particular is pretty fucking fluid, and just like most of the record, his flow is on point. Even the second verse, despite how goofy it can get sometimes.
Straight knocking the boots, cause I'm a superstar, and she knows this, that's why I do a fall. Or should I say long, if you know what I mean? I'm talking about my ice cream.
I think he also pulls it off really well, and with this pretty good instrumental, it all comes together to give this album a really satisfying closure. Also, something, watch these fuckers jump or whatever.
Roll them up, right here on the box, baby.
Alright, so you already know what I think about this album. I think it's an underrated gem of an album that I think has really good performances from Ice and some fantastic production. Seriously, this washes the fuck out of To The Extreme, which is an album that, if you couldn't tell already, I still consider very mediocre. I'll even go as far as to say that it's a better pop rap album, as there are actual hooks on this record and amazing production. So I think it's safe to say that he improved his style. I mean, the worst song on this record to me is I Go Down, but even then, it's not horrible. I don't know, maybe it's just because I wasn't around in the 90s, so I didn't have that bias that people from the 90s had towards Ice, but musically, I really love it. It does have its faults, don't get me wrong, I don't think this record is perfect by any means, but I think this record is one that you probably should check out if you have the chance. If you got love for that boom bap sound, odds are I think you'll really enjoy this one. But a lot of people tended to disagree, as this album was universally seen as a flop when it came out, with many outlets giving this album very low reviews. Even Les Claypool himself from Primus criticized Ice's weed lyrics, saying, "That's all fine and dandy and cute, but it could be misconstrued by the wrong people," which I've always been confused by, like, what the fuck does it even mean? And like, I can at least get why people weren't exactly falling over to try and praise Ice for this record. Not only was his reputation in the toilet at this point, but 94 was kind of a great fucking year for hip-hop. While Mind Blowin was released before these albums, 94 was the year of classics like Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music, Illmatic, and most importantly, Ready to Fucking Die. So I can at least understand why not many people were really gonna pay attention to this record. Regardless, I still think it's a good one. But after the disappointment of the sales of this record, Ice's life would unfortunately take a dark turn, as around this time he would turn to substance abuse. Starting with ecstasy, but moved on to harder drugs like cocaine and heroin. His life spiraled into a monotonous cycle of getting high, and on July 4th, 1994, things would get quite dark. Ice decided to throw a party at his house, attended by a good number of people, and things seemed to be going well, but after the party died down, Ice's thoughts of failure would start to get worse. That night, Ice would try and attempt suicide by overdose, consuming every drug that he could find.
I was so depressed, I was like, you know what? These people are here not for me or anything, just they're here because there's a nice house here and it's a party going on and they're here to drink and have a good time. And what am I going to go into tomorrow? And I was thinking about, tomorrow. I'm going to be all lonely again and depressed, and I don't have anybody here. I don't have a life at all. My life is just so mixed and horrible that I don't even want to live anymore. And I want it out.
His friends would find him convulsing on the floor and vomiting blood, and they would try and revive him, keeping a watchful eye over him, until he awakened the next morning.
I woke up the next day and I was still alive, and I was like, oh, I'm still here. whoa. And I felt like, God, I got a second chance here. What am I gonna do with this?
From that point, Ice decided it was time to change his life after surviving something that could have very likely killed him. Seeing this moment as a second chance on life, he eventually kicked his addictions, and after finishing the mind-blowing tour in '95, he decided to take another break from music, instead taking time to focus on his passion for motocross and jet skiing. Hell, he even started studying real estate, as well as having a side hustle of renovating houses, which may or may not have inspired something he would do down the road. But eventually, Ice would return to music again, which I'll save for the next video in this series, but rest assured, shit was gonna get different. Good night, everyone.
He's a big kid, so I got 2 kids.
Saturday nights, distant lights, you, your girl, and your Johnson. My wife would like that.